has won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do.
We've been spending a lot of time this campaign season over the last couple of months for one of our new heroes, Scott Jennings at CNN, the voice of reason on CNN. He has been so precise. He's been so clear. He's been so sober. And he's done a service to the viewers of CNN, because if you watch CNN, unlike MSNBC, unlike ABC News and the networks, if you watch CNN, yes, it's crap. And yes, you have to deal with Wolf Blitzer and Kate Collins and Jake Tapper. But once in a while, Scott Jennings pops up. And if you watch CNN enough, if you're a regular viewer, you were not shocked by what happened last night. Or even if you were sad about it, you at least had some understanding that it was a possibility that it would happen. And you had an understanding of why it would happen, why voters were feeling the way they were. And that's because Scott Jennings cut through all the bull on CNN and bravely and clearly communicated exactly, for the most part, why you voted the way you voted. And last night was no exception. This was a great moment, and I want you to soak it in. Scott Jennings kind of putting an exclamation point on his entire incredible work that he did during this campaign.
This is a mandate. He's won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids. And they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line. And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Again, Scott Jennings, absolutely perfect. And the perfect tone, by the way, as well, and says exactly what needs to be said on that panel. And no one sitting in that counter can dispute it. I mean, they'll ignore it. They won't engage in it. They won't interact with it because they know how true it is. And he later took to X as the results were developing, and he put it even more succinctly, Scott Jennings did. Dudes, rurals, Hispanics, working class Americans, all sick and tired of it. And sick and tired of it actually cuts in multiple directions. But I got to tell you something that's not going to show up in the exit polls, because you see the exit polls and they say, what was the motivating factor? And they give a list of things. Let me tell you something. I looked at these exit polls, and I have a hunch. I could be wrong. And in fact, I'd love for you to chime in the comment section in the live chat if you could. I have a hunch, and we'll never know for sure unless we go back and do some serious polling now after the fact. But there was one option in these exit polls about what really motivated your vote. Why did you vote the way you did? And of course, it said the crime and border security and immigration and national security in Israel and Ukraine and the economy and the cost of living and on and on and on, and democracy and protecting democracy and abortion, and all these options were on there. You know what I didn't see? Anger over COVID. You think about this for a minute. Since the masking, since the shutdown, since the frankly, I think the 2020 election was an abomination because of the pandemic protocols, right? All those mail-in ballots that were not actually necessary. Now that we learned that social distancing was a joke and a fraud, even Anthony Fauci has no idea where the social distancing came from, but that's what motivated all of the mail-in ballots. A lot of people believe that 2020 election went the way that it did because of COVID, right? The masking, the mandates for vaccines, where you were told you were going to be fired if you didn't get a shot, by the same people who now ran on, oh, you should be able to do with your body whatever you want. The people's loss of livelihoods, businesses, our children's loss of education, school shutdowns, 2-year-olds forced to wear masks, the people dying alone in a hospital room because they couldn't have their loved ones around them, funerals were not allowed to be attended, high school graduations weren't allowed to be had, or proms or anything. I could be wrong. I would have loved to have this on the exit polls. But when Scott Jennings says all sick and tired of it, I think that's an underlying thing. Oh, and add to the fact that if you tried to use social media to speak out against all of those things, even challenge or question the nightmare that we all lived through during COVID-19, you were silenced, you were censored, you were shamed. And there was one party that rode roughshod across all of it. And it was the party that suffered huge losses yesterday. And I truly do believe that the authoritarian, totalitarian effects of what they did to us in COVID-19 had a huge, huge impact on the vote yesterday. And it'll never, ever really be tangibly measured. I could be wrong. You tell me. You tell me in the chat or in the comments if you agree or disagree with me, because I get this feeling, I got a hunch, and I think that was a big deal yesterday. All right, let's keep it on CNN, because my God, I love this so much. You know, they do all that. Now, first of all, let me set this up by telling you that you have to remember one of the most important fundamental things to know about the mainstream media, especially DC-based journalists whose main skill set is to look good with good hair on television while they read a teleprompter. And those skills are personified no better than by that of Jake Tapper, who is so much smarter than you. He is, you can tell by his resting smug face. That's right. He's got resting smug face, that Jake Tapper, that he is so superior to you in every possible way. And so here he is with John King, and they do their number guide. We know the numbers because we can hit this giant iPad in front of you, and we can zoom in and zoom out, and we can look at the numbers. And during this sequence you're about to see, as they're looking at the numbers in Georgia, it is revealed to them. They don't get it. They don't figure it out. Somebody has to jump in and sort of tell them and explain to them that it is now mathematically impossible for Kamala Harris to win Georgia. And watch their denial. Watch the complete and total psychological denial that they go through. What grieving is what? Anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. We're in denial mode at this point on CNN. What time was this? 9:30 in the evening. Watch. This is perfection.
Has a margin of 118,838 votes, and you're saying there's 100,000 left.
If he's being literal, sometimes 100,000, you know, they're getting calls from counties and they say 20,000, it's really 22.
Right.
They say 30,000, it could be 33.
John,
but if he's
can I just jump in?
Yes, please.
Actually, we asked about how do you know these numbers, and actually by law, they have to have it,
Right.
the actual numbers. So I understand your point, but I think they do have more precise numbers based on what the law requires.
Interesting.
Well, then that math sends a shockwave through the Harris campaign.
Yeah.
If that is literal, just even if she won them all, if there's 100,000 left,
Right.
and she won them all, and she won't, he's 118,000.
She said marginally for Harris, which
Right.
means probably like 53-47 or something along those lines. Interesting. Well, we'll have the decision desk talk to the people in Georgia. Can I go back to Pennsylvania just for 1 second?
So understand that. They said, well, we hear there's only 100,000 votes that are left and they're only marginally, but who knows if that's real? And she's like, oh, and by the way, this is one of the election reforms that was instituted in Georgia because there was all this mystery. How many ballots are still out there? Oh, who knows? Which allows them to say, well, let's just keep making ballots, keep printing out ballots, chugging out ballots. And I'm not saying they did that, but I'm saying that if the perception is there and the possibility exists that they could do that, well, that's a problem. Because you want the people to believe that the election is conducted in a fair and safe way, right? So a new law was put in place from 2020 in the aftermath of 2020 in Georgia that said you must reveal to the public how many ballots at any given time are still yet to be counted. That cannot be a mystery. And so they're like, well, we don't know how they got this 100,000 ballot number. And the Wobbits that chimed in and says, no, that's the law. That's a real number. That's all that's left. And of course, Trump is ahead by, a couple 100,000. It's like, well, even if she got every one of the votes that's still outstanding, there's no way she can win. And Jake Tapper says, oh, well, we'll send that to the decision desk and we'll let them handle it. Hey, let's move to Pennsylvania now. There's like everybody watching is like, then it's over. Literally do the math. Call Georgia. And it took them another hour and a half, I think, to call Georgia. But it's like, literally do the math. And they couldn't do the math. CNN was in denial all night long. They didn't actually call Wisconsin and eventually the presidency for Donald Trump until 5:32 this morning. I know because I was watching it live. I was on a break from my radio show. I started at 5 o'clock, and during the 5:30 break, right there in front of me, they called it. I was like, oh my God, here we go. They were in denial this entire time. Fox, I think, called Wisconsin, around 11:30, maybe 12:30. By the way, well, we'll get to that. They didn't even have to call Wisconsin to call the presidency for Trump. We'll get to that in a minute. But here's more of Jake Tapper being in denial. This is when Trump finally takes the stage to give his victory speech. This is 2:50 in the morning. Take a look.
Donald Trump taking a victory lap of sorts. I do not think that, as far as I know, any major news organization has declared him to be the victor, but it certainly seems that he is on his way.
I don't believe any major news organization has declared him the victor. Okay, now let's break down that language for a minute. News organizations do not declare the winner of an election. Listen to the arrogance built into that sentence. Hey, you haven't won the election until a major news organization declares it. Don't you know who we are? Oh, I'm sorry. What part of the election law in the United States of America or in all 50 states has the "you're not the winner until CNN's Jake Tapper says you're the winner" provision? I don't think that exists. But see, at moments like this, he's been on the air nonstop for maybe 8 hours now. He's a little punchy. He does look good, and he does have resting smug face. His hair's fabulous, and he reads that teleprompter like a son of a. But, when you're that tired and you've been on the air and you're riffing off the top of your head, sometimes you reveal the truth. And in his mind, in Jake Tapper's mind, it's not over until a major news organization declares it's over. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway is that Fox News had declared, projected him to be the winner. Fox News would never use that arrogant language. We declared Trump the winner. Fox News had already done it. Fox News had done it 2 hours ago. And here's Jake Tapper. No major news organization. Dude, they've got double your ratings and revenue. There's like 4 times more people at that moment at 10 minutes till 3 in the morning Eastern time watching Fox News, one channel over from Jake Tapper on CNN. And he's like, they're not a major news organization. Jake, it's over, baby. It's over. Seriously. Go back to politics. Go back to where you started and work for Democrats. I mean, officially on the books work for Democrats. We know you work for Democrats now. But why don't you just cut out the middleman? don't be on CNN. Just go take a job for a senator or for another presidential campaign or something. Because this whole reading the teleprompter with resting smug face and declaring that you're a major news organization and Fox isn't, it ain't going to go anywhere. It's over. The party's over, Jake. In fact, we have a little bit when they went back to Pennsylvania. This is a little earlier in the morning, but this is good stuff too. Watch this in Pennsylvania.
Are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more.
All right. So did you see what just happened there? They said, oh, and we've got this really cool thing. Let's zoom out and we'll show you where in the country Kamala Harris has outperformed Joe Biden from 2020. And when they hit the magic button, nowhere. And Joe was sitting there with Jill and Hunter. Hunter was probably asleep by then with the crack pipe laying out of his mouth. But Joe's watching that going, oh, it's a glorious thing to behold. All right. One other thing here that really stuck out to me in terms of CNN in particular, but in general, CNN, NBC News, and the broadcast networks' refusal to declare Donald Trump the winner. And I've got a theory behind this. I'll share it with you in a moment, but watch an example of this.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
Yeah, I mean, winning not just the electoral votes, but the popular vote as well.
Yeah, I wanted you to see that just in terms of like the all the sads. Yeah, and he also got the popular vote. We can't even use that talking point. We can't even talk about how the Electoral College is racist and was only there to protect slavery and it's anti-democratic and we really should have a national popular vote. And really, Kamala Harris won because we can't even use that one. It's all the sads, but no, it's this refusal to declare Donald Trump the winner, even after they call Pennsylvania. Let's go quickly to MSNBC for that. All right. Here's Rachel Maddow.
NBC News has a projection to make in the presidential contest in the swing state of Pennsylvania. NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. Now, I believe that means that we are at a 266 electoral vote count.
All right, now I want to pause it here for a second. We're going to get into this in a minute, but we wanted to watch that because she's just so sad. We have a projection to make. It's like deja vu all over again, right? I'm so excited about the montages that people are already editing together and putting together, showing all of these calls like they did 8 years ago. It's so fantastic. Look at the graphic on your screen right now. And something stuck out to me. And I was watching all this transpire live last night. Now, it took them a while to call Pennsylvania. Fox had already called Pennsylvania. And if you look at my X feed, and a lot of conservatives who are all watching Fox News, who are in the media and who were, utilizing X to share information, when they called Pennsylvania, it was over. It was over. Okay. Why? Because when they called Pennsylvania, Donald Trump had 267 electoral votes. Okay, now I know you need 270, right? And look, this is the Associated Press who had the count. It had the tally at 267, right? I took a screenshot of this at the time. 267 for Trump. So why is it over? Well, because the only state that was still outstanding other than a swing state, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, and Wisconsin at this time, those 4 states were still up in the air. But Alaska had not been called yet because Alaska is way the hell over as far west coast of North America as you can possibly get, right? And it takes a while because of how big Alaska is and how widespread the districts are. And because of the time change, it was going to take a while for Alaska to be called. But Alaska has voted Republican since, like, I think since ever. Like maybe Kennedy, maybe 1960. I honestly don't know, but it's a shoo-in. It's a lock. Okay, it's like North Dakota. It's like West Virginia. It's like Oklahoma. Alaska was going to go for Trump, and Alaska has 3 electoral college votes. When Pennsylvania was called by Fox News, that gave Trump 267. And so we all said, it's over. He's president. He hit 270. The rest of the states don't matter. We've been doing this math with you for like months now on this show. You knew this. You knew that when this happened, it was over. So let's go back to MSNBC. What the hell is going on? Well, I will tell you what's going on because this was freaking me out. It's like, why do we have a different count? Because of Maine. You'll see right there in the upper right corner of the United States of America, you'll see the state of Maine. And for some reason, some inexplicable, bizarre reason, MSNBC had not called Maine for Kamala Harris, or even New Jersey they hadn't called. Look at that. They hadn't called New Hampshire yet, but they called Pennsylvania. What the hell is going on here? The other networks had called it, or Fox News had called it, AP had called it. Major news organizations had declared them, right? Well, now Maine, you'll remember, it's a blue state, but they also distribute their electoral votes on, it's not a winner take all. Congressional districts are separately distributed, and there is one congressional district in Maine that is conservative, that usually, generally speaking, goes to the Republican. And Trump had won that district. The other major networks had called that. MSNBC and CNN had not. And so even if Alaska came in, it was going to come in at 269. Right? If they don't call Maine yet. So what the hell was that all about? All right. Hold that thought. We'll get to it in a second.
For Donald Trump. Kamala Harris had 194 electoral votes. So to be clear here, this is the third of the 7 major swing states that have been called. But Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania, as those 3 states, presents an almost unless there's it presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket.
That's right. And so that you can hear in Rachel Maddow's voice that it's all starting to come down to her. But why not that one last vote? If it were 267, it would be over and she would have to declare Trump the winner. 267 means Alaska goes. That means 270. That's when Town Hall, when Town Hall saw this happen, we made the call. When Fox News saw Pennsylvania happen, they made the call. I mean, they didn't officially make the call, but they said, well, that should be it. We have to wait for Alaska, but that should be it. And of course, we'll see how the other states. Now, eventually, Fox News called Wisconsin, and that put them way over the top. So what was going on here? And I have a hunch, and I'll never be able to prove it, but I think they were doing whatever they could to hold out some sort of lane, some sort of window. The Harris campaign had gone into radio silence. They weren't hearing anything. And I think they wanted, until they heard from Kamala Harris's campaign, they wanted to keep any possible avenue open for her to try to pull something, swing something, keep it as close as possible, as long as you possibly can. That's the only reason not to call Maine at this point. Everyone knew Maine. Even the Associated Press, as I just showed you. And that's not the only weird thing that happened as we saw the results yesterday. Friend of the program, Sarah, pointed this out as well. If you look at the graphic here, look at the Democrat votes. In 2012, Barack Obama, about 66 million. 2016, Hillary Clinton, about the same. Joe Biden, 2020, 82 million. But then 2024, we're right back where we were, with Kamala Harris basically being on par with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And so what's this? Joe Biden got an extra 15 million votes, which I guess you can say, well, because of the ubiquity of mail-in ballots, during the pandemic. It ended up increasing the number of people who had access to vote. And that's what, but no, because mail-in ballots for the most part are still pretty ubiquitous. They shouldn't be. I wish we'd change that. That can't be it. Early voting is still in place. All these others. So it's strange, isn't it? It's strange. So what's really strange about this, not just that these 15 million votes showed up, it's that they disappeared. So you are to believe that 15 million more people voted for Joe Biden than for Hillary Clinton, for Barack Obama, and then even more astoundingly, those 15 million Democrat voters disappeared. Where'd they go? Has there been some sort of alien abduction that we should know about? Was there, I'm sorry, did the rapture occur? I did see those Left Behind movies, but I just thought it was some sort of, apocryphal, weird theological aberration. I didn't know it was real. Did the rapture happen and we don't know about it? Did 15 million Democrat voters just get lifted up into heaven? And we're all left behind? That's weird, isn't it? I think that's weird. I mean, it could have happened. There's three different options here. Number one, those people hated Donald Trump so much 4 years ago that they just crawled over broken glass to make sure that they voted for Joe Biden. But they don't hate Donald Trump now 4 years later. And so they were fine with not voting for Kamala Harris. That's option number one. Option number two, 15 million people have disappeared off the face of the earth. It could be, a lost episode of Lost. It could be, the sequel to the Left Behind series. It could be some sort of alien thing. We don't know, but they just disappeared. Or the third option for those 15 million people who voted Democrat in 2020 is that they never actually existed in the first place. Hey, real fast, for those of us holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale, right? Woo! Work can finally be done on the major issues this country is facing, and one of the most significant ones is our national debt. The fact is our nation is broke. That debt is a house of cards that can't quickly be dismantled. So the strategy remains the same. Diversify your savings, protect yourself. So many things are out of our control, out of our president-elect's control. It's important to have a safe haven for your savings. And I'm talking about Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold Group is going to help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, actual tangible physical gold. And the best news is it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. You want more information? I know you do. Text my name, Larry, Larry. Not only is that my name, it's the name of our show. Couldn't be simpler. Larry, Larry. Text that to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold. And also, by the way, through Black Friday, that's between now and Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, you're going to receive a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased with Birch Gold Group. That's huge. Diversify your savings with Birch Gold. Text Larry, Larry, to 989898. Claim your eligibility for free silver today.